is the sponsor of this hearing this morning. There may be no better measurement of our nation's values than our nation's budget. How compassionate, caring, just, and peaceful we are as a country is directly reflected by our federal tax and spending decisions. Are our tax policies fair? Should corporations pay more or fewer taxes? What about wealthy people? What about the middle class and the poor? Are our spending policies sane and humane? What programs, projects, and communities should receive greater funding? What should receive fewer funds? Who wins? Who loses? And how do we reduce our nation's debt? The federal Congress President agree to each year provide clear question. As an organization dedicated to peace and justice, service concerning federal budget priorities, we funding on wars and occupation, weapon systems, foreign military bases, bank bailouts, and subsidy operations reduced, while funding for programs that genuinely support people, communities, sustainable economies, and the environment should be increased. Moreover, tax cuts favoring the wealthy and multinational corporations should end. These are our we want to hear your views. The purpose of this public hearing is twofold. First, we would like to give the community residents and social service representatives an opportunity to directly share their views and stories on budget priorities. And second, we would like to give our elected an opportunity to directly share their views with their constituents on the priorities. We are very pleased and honored to have with us a representative from U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown, who is running a little late but is supposed to be, representatives from the offices of both Akron area U.S. House Representatives, Betty Sutton and Tim Ryan. A representative from Senator Rob Portman could not be with us today, but a representative from Senator Portman's office has committed to meeting with a delegation of people in the next week or two to hear our views and a copy of today's video and written testimony. I would like to introduce those representatives of our representatives now and give each of them an opportunity to have a few opening comments before we begin our testimony. So, Mr. Blackman's not here yet, and he represents U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown. But I would like to introduce Katie Breck, who is representing Congresswoman Betty Sutton, and Mark Callion, who is representing Congressman Tim Ryan. So a few words from Katie. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Katie Breck, and I'm from the office of Congresswoman Betty Sutton. And Congresswoman Sutton is in Washington working on our behalf, and she regrets not being able to be here today. But I am here on her behalf to listen to your thoughts and your concerns about the federal budget. I can tell you that as a staff member, the Congresswoman has received hundreds of emails and letters and phone calls regarding this, and all the constituents have shared very interesting views on how federal tax dollars should be spent. Congresswoman Sutton looks forward to receiving your testimony, and I am happy to share your concerns and priorities with her today. Congresswoman Sutton remains committed to addressing the priorities of all Americans, creating jobs, strengthening the middle class, and reducing the deficit in a responsible way, and growing our economy. The Congresswoman will continue to fight for affordable housing, investments in education and our infrastructure, and programs that create and retain American jobs. And while we all can appreciate the need to address our deficit, Congresswoman Sutton believes that it cannot be done on the backs of our seniors and our most vulnerable populations. Certainly, these individuals were not the ones that drove our economy off of the cliff. And with that, I will conclude my remarks, and I look forward to hearing your views and concerns about the federal budget. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Katie. And next, we are honored to hear from Mark Callion, who represents Representative Tim Ryan.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here today and stand before such a prestigious and motivated group. On behalf of Congressman Tim Ryan, I would like to just say actually thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm new to the Akron area. I live in Warren and represent from the 3 days in Warren, and I'm here at Akron twice a week as well. So we want to make sure that the presence is definitely known and that access is granted to the community so that your concerns can be shared. I do have somewhat of a prepared statement for this, but in addition to that, I'm definitely here to receive of your concerns and be able to relay that back up to our DC office where the policies are formed, so make sure that the community and the legislature is not detached in any way. What was provided for me is simply a clear-cut statement regarding to the most recent proposals from the Republican side on the budget proposals. To make cuts in somewhat of a reckless way, it's felt, to some of the critical programs that we rely on as Americans, such as Medicare, Medicaid, and higher education, as well as research for disease and funding. It's really trying to, as Katie said, to balance the budget on the backs of those who can least afford it. I stand here before you as somebody who has received Pell Grants. I might not even be in this position. I started off as an intern actually in 2003 with Congressman Ryan's office, and have been able to work my way up throughout the ranks and things like that to actually come back as a paid staffer. So I know that the programs that are there are a necessity, if you will. And we want to make sure that the concerns of the people are echoed within the legislation that comes forward. So I thank you for having a meeting such as this, and we look forward to being able to take the voice that generates here and sharing it with the folks across the nation. Thank you.
To be fair, in terms of statements, we did receive a statement from Senator Rob Portman, which was written May 25th, and I'll quickly read it. U.S. Senator Rob Portman, a Republican from Ohio, a member of the Senate Budget Committee, today voiced his disappointment with the Democrats' unwillingness to put forward a budget proposal and their continued political games as the nation approaches a fiscal crisis. It is a shame that while our nation is facing a fiscal crisis and families and small businesses are forced to do more with less, the Democrats have not come up with a budget. This is a time for leadership. Instead, we see politics, with Democratic leaders more focused on the next elections than on the next generation. Rather than ignoring record deficits and debts, Ohioans deserve the opportunity for an open debate on a budget that curbs the Washington spending spree, reforms taxes, and creates jobs. While I voted to proceed to a debate on the Representative Ryan and Senator Toomey budget proposals, there are areas in which I have advocated changes. We should have at least taken up one serious budget on the Senate floor for a real debate. While not perfect, both of these proposals do something President Obama's plan failed to do. Acknowledge that we are on the edge of a crisis and that burying our head in the sand only makes our economy worse and threatens the future of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Those are our words from Senator Portman. And we are happy to welcome our representative of our Senator Sherrod Brown, Max Blackman. And Max, everyone else has had an opportunity to give a little opening statement, and we would offer you the same opportunity.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here, and thank you for your patience. I'm sorry I got